Welcome to the Binge List, fellow TV and film fanatics. I'm Greg and I make recommendations for TV shows and movies you can access from the comfort of your own home. And I love to laugh, and so I wanted to share some comedy series that made me laugh, from some over-the-top options to some more silly series and everything in between. So stop mindlessly scrolling, stop wasting your time, and let's jump in and check out the list.
Oi mate, there's you.
I believe it is.
Wicked. You coaching football. You are a legend for doing something so stupid. I mean, it's mental. They're gonna murder you.
I love a lot of shows on this list, the characters, the jokes, the stories, and everything in them, but my next pick, Ted Lasso, is by far my favorite. It's actually one of my favorite shows of all time, and the only series that I've ever talked about on the channel 3 times, and I couldn't do a list about comedy series without including this one. This series follows the larger-than-life character Ted Lasso, who is an American football coach who ends up getting hired for a struggling English soccer team, AFC Richmond. Despite actually having no experience with soccer, and like many of the series on this list, Ted Lasso blends humor and emotional moments together, but I'm not sure any of them do it as well as this one. This show really is the definition of a heartwarming experience. The character himself, Ted Lasso, his optimistic and encouraging attitude through every interaction in his life is very powerful. It's one of those shows where you just feel good while you're watching it. And Ted obviously is a great character and he does hold the entire thing together, but there are so many strong performances around him that makes Sudeikis' character funnier and more inspirational. Like Hannah Waddingham as AFC Richmond's owner, Rebecca Welton, Brett Goldstein as Roy Kent, and so many others that deliver memorable performances. And I honestly can't think of a performance or a character that does not add to the enjoyment of this show for one reason or another. So enough with the sappy stuff. This is a comedy list, and yes, Ted Lasso is extremely funny. It leans very heavily into the cultural differences between American and English football, giving you some truly hilarious fish out of water situations, witty lines, and some awesome dynamics between their characters. Ted Lasso is a heartwarming and uplifting comedy that offers a refreshing perspective on sports and human connection. With its strong characters, positive messaging, the series is absolutely worth a watch. And finally, they have greenlit the 4th season, so it is a perfect time to catch up. Second on my list is one that was actually praised in the comments section, and I decided to revisit it, and this is the show Resident Alien, whom's the identity of this small town Dr. Harry. As he navigates his new life, this character must contend with the challenges of human life and trying to fit in to keep his alien identity, posing as a human being. But this one is a little unique where he's doing so against his wishes, which makes this another great fish out of water comedy with that sci-fi element. It does blend humor and a good amount of heartfelt moments, creating a well-rounded show. But if you really think about the humor as you're watching it, it's pretty dark. But thankfully, most of that darker material is delivered by Alan Tudyk. He truly makes the show. He is hilarious, and yes, he delivers a majority of those darker lines, but he does so in such a quirky and offbeat way that it never comment section because it is absolutely an enjoyable watch.
There's something wrong with that man.
Who even are you, Harry Vanderspiegel?
Just a normal human.
The next series on the list here today is probably a lesser known series, and this is Misfits. This one really hits me because of the British humor and its wit. It is really less laugh out loud compared to Resident Alien, but offers way more laughs than you'd think going into it. Because the show follows this group of young offenders sentenced to community service who acquire superpowers after a freak thunderstorm. But they navigate their newfound abilities, they grapple with the challenges of their past, ethical implications of their powers. Again, doesn't sound overly funny, but I promise you there are tons of laughs throughout. And again, I love British humor, but on top of that, I also love superheroes, so it fit perfectly into the type of content that I gravitate towards. But it was really interesting to see this group of young offenders gain their superpowers and how these irresponsible kids utilize them. The series itself features a pretty diverse cast of characters with distinct personalities and backstories that work really well together. And some of those stars have become pretty famous since this show, but you have Nathan Sheehan, Ian Rowan, Antonio Thomas, really who take center stage and stand out. But there is one thing that I do want to mention if you decide to jump into this show. Seasons 1 through 3 feature the core 3 and some other really great characters that are fun and you really connect with. But the show does go through a mega change going into the later seasons where a majority of that original cast of characters are just not there anymore. So I do fully recommend seasons 1 through 3 of Misfits for its darkly comedic British humor, cool take on superheroes, and lovable characters, but proceed past the series on Apple TV Plus Shrinking. This series follows Jimmy, who is a therapist who is struggling to cope with his own grief after the loss of his wife. To cope, he begins to break the rules of therapy, offering his clients brutally honest advice. This unconventional approach leads to both positive and negative consequences as Jimmy navigates his personal and professional life. Again, this is another show that blends humor and emotional moments as you follow Jimmy through his grief, his loss, his personal growth as the show carries on. And Jason Segel is hilarious, a phenomenal comedic actor who delivers standout performance as Jimmy, but also really makes you feel what this character is feeling with his facial expressions and physical acting. And I did think originally going into this that Harrison Ford was a weird pick, but it turns out he is the perfect casting to play alongside Segel as the more serious character. But these two work really well together, feeding off of each other's energy. And not to gush over Segel any more than I already have, but he was the co-creator and writer on this one alongside Brett Goldstein from Ted Lasso and Bill Lawrence, who bring a lot to this that is reminiscent to other titles that they worked on like Freaks and Geeks, Scrubs, and heavier topics in a very humorous way.
You've been numbing.
Stop. You're doing sad face.
This is just face. I have resting dead wife face.
From heartwarming and witty to something a bit more ridiculous with the DCEU spin-off series Peacemaker. This one stems from the same universe that delivered the Suicide Squad films, and it follows the character of Christopher Smith, aka Peacemaker, who is this violent and excessively patriotic anti-hero who is tasked with leading a Black Ops team on a dangerous mission. Like I mentioned, this one is ridiculous, and it is so in so many different ways, from crazy unrealistic action to way over the top comedic moments that create a super fun and engaging series. So if you enjoy the Suicide Squad films, this is perfect option for you. Plus you get to see John Cena deliver an outstanding action / comedic performance as the Peacemaker character. And hear me out on this, but I do look at John Cena very similarly to how I look at Ryan Gosling. Very stereotypical leading man who does that great, but they're both also incredibly funny, putting themselves in ridiculous situations. They're able to deliver witty lines, they have amazing facial expressions, and great comedic timing. And as a note, just like the movie universe that this series stems from, it does contain violence, strong language, and some sexual content even, which might not be suitable for everyone. But if that's okay with you, Peacemaker is a crazy and unconventional series that offers you a unique perspective again on the superhero genre. Absolutely worth checking out for tons of laughs.
Have you met Wonder Woman?
She did spend an entire party IFing me from across the room.
Sick.
Dude, I said effing. Hey, all right.
Another DC comic book inspired series on this list is the show iZombie. This one is a comedy horror series that follows the character Liv, who is a medical resident who becomes a zombie after a party goes way wrong. And to survive, she must end up feeding on brains, which grants her the memories and personality traits of the deceased that she consumes. So she uses her newfound abilities to help the police solve murders, all while navigating her personal life and dealing with the challenges of being a zombie in this modern world. For the most part, this series follows the normal detective show model where there's a case every single episode, but what makes it fun and unique is the use of Liv's zombie powers. And Rose McIver's performance is great because as she uses the power, she essentially takes on and becomes a brand new character in a lot of the episodes, showing off some great range, and it adds a lot of the humor as you watch these other characters have to interact with her as essentially a different person. And that supporting cast is very solid, including Malcolm Goodwin, Rahul Kohli, Ali Michalka, David Anders, and Robert Buckley. It can be very silly, it is packed full of laughs, but they do a great job blending in the detective and the horror elements, along with even some romance, providing you with a pretty well-rounded show. So check out iZombie, it's humorous, it's entertaining, offers you a pretty unique option in the zombie genre. Definitely worth checking out.
I used to be passionate, inspired, alive. Now I'm mostly just hungry. And a zombie, so there's that.
Next up is probably the most memed show in recent memory, and that is the show Schitt's Creek. This sitcom follows the Rose family, who is this extremely wealthy family who loses their fortune and are forced to relocate to the small rural town of Schitt's Creek. As they adjust to their new life, the Roses must learn to adapt to their humble circumstances and navigate the challenges of this small town living. This one really does have a ton to love about it. It's hard to talk about everything that's great about this series, but honestly, in my opinion, what does make it great is the characters themselves and how they work so well together as this unit. The Rose family has exceptional chemistry. They are lovable, relatable, and all hilarious in their own way. And they grab you with the humor at the beginning of this series and the laugh out loud moments, but as the show goes on, all these characters undergo this significant amount of personal growth, which is a fun journey to go on with them, and you just end up loving these characters. And it's not all just the central family either. This show is packed full of outstanding supporting roles, with this small town mayor and his wife, the country waitress, the veterinarian. I would be hard pressed to believe that you haven't sent or been sent at least one David meme since this show came out, because it has now gained this cult following and was, or maybe still is, this cultural phenomenon. So check out Schitt's Creek. It is fun. It's going to provide you with a ton of laughs. It has awesome characters and an overall positive message worth checking out.
Animal. I'm not having my
I do not typically like to say controversial things in my videos, but I am going to start this title off with one. The Big Bang Theory is the best sitcom friend group show ever. And yes, in my opinion, that means it is better than the show Friends itself. I am sure that some of you are racing to the comment section, but before you do so, I want to be clear lives of this socially awkward scientist and their interactions with the outside world. And the show centers around Sheldon Cooper, Leonard Hofstadter, Penny, Howard Wolowitz, and Raj Koothrappali, who navigate their careers, relationships, and just the everyday while balancing their love of science and pop culture. The show's characters in this one are so incredibly crazy intelligent, which, at least for me, is not that relatable, and it's not how I describe myself, but somehow the show does this amazing job making the circumstance, socially awkward situations, and even some really intelligent jokes that make you think about them before you can laugh. But the humor in this one, it does evolve over the seasons as the characters evolve. And honestly, from season 1 all the way to season 12, the show changes so much that it constantly is feeling fresh. And I'm not much of a crier about shows and movies. I don't typically get overly emotional with them, but this one is one of the shows where its finale episode, to this day, every time I see it, makes me tear up a little bit. It's very sad. So check out The Big Bang Theory as what I would consider the best sitcom of its kind. It's packed full of humor, relatable characters, and a celebration of geek culture that I love. Absolutely worth 1, 2, 10 watches all the way through.
Babies will be smart and beautiful. Not to mention imaginary.
So let's go back to back with sitcoms here with another incredible option, and this one is How I Met Your Mother. This follows Ted Mosby as he recounts the story of how he met his wife to his children in the future. And throughout the series, Ted details the exploits throughout his life with his friend group, Marshall, Lily, Barney, and Robin, who all play these extremely significant roles in his life on his search for love. The series uses this flashback structure, jumping between Ted's present-day storytelling and the events in the past. Even though Ted is not always the most reliable narrator, and he does sometimes change some of the details to improve the stories or make the stories cleaner as he's telling this to his kids. Ted's stories are packed full of fun moments between his friend group with clever humor and tons of quotable lines, everything you look for in this type of series. But unlike The Big Bang Theory, this one does lean a little bit more heavily into the romantic comedy realm. This cast includes Neil Patrick Harris, Allison Hannigan, Kobe Smulders, Jason Segel, and Josh Radnor, who across all of their seasons are just great together. They work well together, off of each other, have extremely good chemistry. How I Met Your Mother is absolutely worth checking out. It is a fun show. It is also really funny. It takes you on a journey of friendship, love, and life.
Kids, I'm gonna tell you an incredible story. The story of How I Met Your Mother.
Last but not least is probably the newest series on this list, and that is the show Tires on Netflix. This is a low-budget comedy series co-created by the popular stand-up comedian Shane Gillis. The series follows Will, who is this unqualified heir to a struggling auto repair business. And as he tries to turn the business around, he must contend with a lot of different things throughout the series and his obnoxious cousin Shane, who is also an employee at the store. I'm not sure that this one is going to be as universal as some of the others on this list, because it does lean into Gillis's comedic style quite a bit and what I would probably describe as blue-collar bro humor. If that's not for you, I would probably just skip this one. But if that type of humor lands for you, this show is jam-packed with funny and absurd situations with the cast that includes a bunch of comedians in it. With Gillis, of course, you've got Steven Gerben, Stavros, Andrew Schultz, who deliver pretty solid performances. And if you're looking for a quick binge option, this one is short and sweet with only 6 episodes, yet the characters feel relatable and well developed enough for such a short series, making the series easy to connect with. So check out Tires for a short, sweet, lighthearted comedy that's going to deliver a ton of laughs.
I'm gonna have about 5 or 6 brewskis.
5 or 6?
7 or 8. Good call.
You'll black out.
I'm probably gonna black out at work today.
Shane?
2 or 3 brewskis.
Fine, 2 or 3.
Deal. 6.
All right, so that's going to do it for our list today, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me. And I know every YouTuber says this stuff, but click the stuff down below, subscribe, share, like the video. It does help us get our recommendations out to others looking for good shows and movies that they can watch from home. But again, thanks, and we'll see you in the next one.